if you're cool like me. It's weird that I should have to effectively use a government ID to put into a database that I am of age to look at this naughty material, right? Cast Iron Brains, a podcast reminding everyone that, as the great Kurt Vonnegut admonished, we must be careful what we pretend to be because we are what we pretend to be. And more to the point, this week, if we pretend that everyone around us is something they're not, eventually they're just going to be like, well, if you insist, call Republicans white nationalist fascists long enough, and we end up with kind of white nationalist, kind of fascists running things. Call Democrats community organizing Muslim Marxists, and you end up with one of those as the likely next mayor of New York City. And make movies about motherfucking snakes on a motherfucking plane, and you wind up with multiple seizures of luggage full of live snakes on its way from Thailand to points unknown across the globe. So stop being hyperbolic about your political enemies and be wary of the art you create. For our minds are ludicrously powerful things, apparently. What hath you wrought, Sharknado? My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
I'm on vacation.
Lori's on vacation. Tonight is Monday, June 30th, 2025. Sneaking one last CIB in here before the end of June.
This is our first July 4th week show ever.
I don't know about ever.
In the second season.
I feel like we've done this like the first half. Like we would miss a show around July 4th.
Yeah.
But like sometimes we'd get one in before we
No,
took
we would
off.
always leave as soon as we could.
All right. Well, how exciting. I have no patriotic things planned for tonight's episode,
No, it's
I'm
just
afraid.
of note. We usually don't have a show this week.
Yeah. You have a good weekend, Dave?
I did. There is this, FIFA. Next year they have the regular World Cup where all these nations qualify and make it in. Atlanta's getting a couple of games. They're spreading it thin for next year. It's going to be like in America, Canada, and Mexico. This year, they're doing a Club World Cup, some stupid gimmick where they take the best clubs from all over the world to compete in this FIFA Club World Cup. And on Sunday, they were doing some round of 16 matchup, and I went with my brothers and nephews to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium to watch. It was Paris Saint-Germain versus Inter Miami. Basically, the gist of it is...
This PSG is like one of the best clubs in the world, right?
Right. One of the best clubs in the world against Lionel Messi and the Miami squad. And so...
I should put some respect on Luis Suarez's name, Abe,
that bum was there. Anyways...
No, it was just that one team against that one guy. The whole team against...
How do you like me
guy.
dropping the soccer knowledge on you? With being able to name a second soccer star. Because you know what I did on Sunday morning after the news shows were over? We flipped on over to ESPN, and there was the game that Abe was at, and that's how I justified putting the soccer game on for half an hour.
Nice. The official attendance was 65,000. It's a pretty packed crowd. Almost
on TV, that lower bowl didn't look too packed at the beginning.
Oh no, it was a very lively crowd in person. We got pretty good seats. By the way, pro tip: find you a sibling who has connections to some marketing department. They'll give you like free tickets, like really close to the action. These were all comped tickets, but
nice.
A very lively crowd. Almost all of them were Messi fans. They were.
Do you think that's why
chanting
your
his name.
parents went ahead and had like 8 or 10 of you fucking kids, so
Yes.
that they spread the far and wide, and then you've got one who
useful
can get
one,
comp
yes.
seats somewhere.
Hopefully, he maintains whatever relationship he's developed for next year. I would
This
rather
is
watch
this is what Muhammad was thinking. And the Catholics, of course, also, you go forth and multiply,
Yes.
spread the good word.
You have a brother with connections, too.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
Catholic.
see? That's how it works. Yeah, it's a nice scheme. Anyways, a lot of fun just watching the people making chants of Messi, even though like he was on the lesser team, that Miami team. I don't know how they made it to the round of 16. The other team, they beat them like 4-0, and it was 4-0 at halftime. They just went easy on them. The rest of the game, it was like a very bad showing for the Miami squad. But overall, it was pretty entertaining. A lot of chanting. These soccer fans know how to keep themselves busy. I will say, I wish
They
I
have
was.
to. They're incredibly bored.
I wish I was into soccer more because, like, there are no commercials. You're in and out. The ticket said 12 o'clock noon Eastern time. It starts at 12 o'clock. They do their no timeouts, no bullshit. Even by the way, all the writhing in pain with injuries. It's fun to see in person. Even if
within fucking 10 minutes of that game start, and there's somebody on the ground
Yes.
as though there had been a sniper in Megatron's butthole who had shot him from the nosebleeds, and he's like grabbing his face as though he's going to reveal that he's lost an eye when the hand finally comes off of it. And it comes off, and he looks at his hand as though there might be blood there. There's nothing there. There's not even a mark on his face.
Yeah.
A person very lightly brushed his head with the side of his hand while they were going for a soccer ball. And
one thing
that
that
he
you
was so
notice
upset
in
about.
person is that if you have to basically maintain the fake injury long enough for where they'll respect it and they'll stop the game. Like there was one guy that went down and everybody else continued to play and he continued to writhe in pain. Like he would like occasionally kind of like look up and just continue to like, oh my God, my ankle or whatever. And then eventually everybody stopped. But you have to kind of like stick to it. You can't give up the ruse. You have to stay with it the whole way. Or else
it is an absolutely unbearable part of the game, and it's hard to take it seriously.
But
I'm not even one of these hardos who's like mad about this generation being full of two pussies. You know, like it's like whatever. Like I think you can be too tough on kids when they, but like this, it's just fucking ridiculous.
Right. The fans that were around, they're a very international crowd. A lot of Spanish insults. I could tell. I could pick up one or two of them, but like there was a lot of that. It was a pretty fun little group.
You know, I don't watch much soccer. I watch the World Cup when it comes around, and that's about it. I caught, like I said, 30 minutes or so of this game on Sunday afternoon. Lionel Messi, and this is something that I've noticed before, is Lionel Messi does this. Like most of what he does on the soccer field is just walk. Like he very rarely, like he can be within 10 feet of a ball that's being handled by the opposition, and he just sort of moseys in that direction. Like he very rarely, and then when he's going, it's like, oh, fucking there he goes.
He turns it on. It's like it's remarkable the energy shift. As soon as there's any action headed his way, everybody just rises. He could literally start a cult if he wanted to, a cult of soccer hooligans.
But he's like. I guess he's just conserving energy for 99% of the time, so that in those moments he can attempt to make things happen. But it's just funny because you think about soccer, it's like, oh well, there's a great deal of running around. Like you just run around the entire time, but like he makes no effort. 90+% of the time.
I don't know if it was that sports science or there was some tracking of like how far soccer players
it's like
run.
10 miles.
And they would keep track of it. I wonder if they kept track of Messi compared to other comparable position players, like the difference. Because you're right, he does seem to like know exactly when to turn it on and when to turn it off. Everybody else is running more often than not, and he's just kind of lollygagging until he turns it on. But when he does, it's amazing.
Sadly, my understanding is that they've had to throw out all of the sports science that was done in the last 15 years because that guy offed himself.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but, I think it could survive his off, don't you think?
It's a very insensitive joke of me to make.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The guy who hosted sports science on, I think it was a Fox show initially, and then ESPN bought it up and brought it over. And it ran on ESPN, and it was like they would do
I remember the show.
They would do like a half-hour show, I think, and then they would also feature them on SportsCenter segments. And that guy apparently was a depressive, and
Right.
he did the deed to himself last month or something.
Before this most recent incident where he actually did, like, he was describing to somebody, I think it was Marcellus Wiley or some former NFL athlete, he was explaining to him how he went through like a suicidal episode in the past, and he was, I guess, turning things around. This was a couple of years ago, but like, it seems like this has been a recurring thing for him.
Right. Dude's name was John Brinkus. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a bummer of a way to start a
Yeah. But
conversation.
yeah, it was
way to go, me.
fun activities with the kids.
Calvin went to a soccer game.
Nice.
Local Charlottesville farm.
Yeah, it's like
I don't
a
know.
Charlottesville semi-pro team or something. The Charlottesville Blues. They play at the high school. He got to be a ball boy. Like, he didn't know he was going to work, but he got there and they were like, "Hey, we're going to need color guard people to present these flags and also ball boys for the game." And so they just got kids from the crowd and had them work the game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I certainly didn't go. No, thank you. You know what we did do today, though, is we went to the local library, as Calvin put it, after we got back. And one thing I discovered is that it's full of homeless people. And I think I sort of knew that intellectually. Like, yeah, it's where the homeless people hang out during the day, especially when it's hot. But like the entire bottom floor, which is the nonfiction and like research part of it, normally you would think is where they have like their banks of computers and whatnot, just smelled of the homeless. Like it smelled like a homeless encampment down there, to the point where, like, I'm pretty sure that they were just allowing them to smoke weed down there, because either that or they were going somewhere and smoking a great deal of weed and then immediately hanging out there. But it just smelled like weed in the basement floor. And I was down there to look for like the history, nonfiction, or philosophy section, but I had the kids with me. And we get down to the bottom of the stairs, and I was like, you know what? I think I'll come back to this section some other time. I don't know what all of these homeless folks are going to be looking at the internet-enabled computers that they have access to. I don't necessarily want to find out, and certainly don't want the kids to find out. So let's just go back upstairs.
So, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. I thought it was just my local library that had that issue. Many years ago, I would make a point to like read at the library because I just couldn't focus in my apartment. So like I would just go there after work and just like sit down somewhere and read, and also like look at the people who things aren't going too well for them. A lot of homeless people making use of the computers that are available to them. A lot of Facebook, a lot of YouTube. And occasionally there'll be some sort of argument because like somebody's like, "Hey, you're sitting where I need to be sitting," and there's all these very entertaining afternoon if you're into that sort of thing. But I didn't know that libraries in Charlottesville had similar issues.
I think it's just kind of standard at this point. Your local librarian also has to function as like a social worker and a liaison to the police. Like just while we were there, the cops were there reviewing security footage because some fucking dude was yelling about how somebody took his phone, and he was like super mad that like his phone was gone when he got up for a minute and now his phone is gone. He's like, "Did anybody see a phone? My phone." It's like, sir, it's time to calm down.
Also, not enough information either.
Right. So a few minutes later, I'm like going up to the counter to check out and be done with things, and there's a bunch of these librarians gathered around a computer screen with an officer of the law with them, and they're reviewing footage, and they're all sort of having a giggle because like it's footage of a bunch of homeless people down there, like they do, as you're suggesting, sometimes they do amusing things. And it seems that the gentleman whose property had been misappropriated by someone else, and they're not sure who, had just fallen asleep down there. Like he was just asleep in the library, and then his phone was gone when he woke up, and so they snapped a couple of still frames, and they're going to be on the lookout for the guy who they think might be the person who took the phone on the way by. But he was over there, and he's like leaning over the counter, like, "Do you see anybody? You see anything?" And because of course there's only two levels of energy. It's fucking manic and crazed or asleep at the library, right? There's not a lot of in between. And the cop was like, I mean, the only thing I can really see, man, is you sleeping in the library, which you know you're not allowed to do.
Right.
But like, we got a photo of a guy who maybe was near you, but like, I don't know about the phone, but we'll keep an eye out. Anyway,
I'm no detective, but like, not too many people are like reaching in to steal something from a homeless person. So it's either somebody that this person knows, or
yes, it's one of his fellow unhoused, no doubt.
Or he's left it at the last known location, and he just kind of forgot, and he slept, and he just forgot the sequence of events.
Or it's in one of his many pockets or bags that he has with him.
That too, yeah.
These are many pocketed individuals.
Right. You would think like somebody like, hey, call my number. Like, let's see if it rings. Maybe it's like hidden somewhere.
He's at the library.
He's in the library.
No doubt he keeps it on silent when he's in. Come on, he's
Don't
not a
wanna be
monster,
rude.
Abe. He's just unhoused. How dare you?
You're right. I apologize.
It was good though. We haven't been to the library. I used to go to the library once in a blue moon back when the kids were in nursery school or preschool, because the preschool was right around the corner from the library. I would go there and maybe read for a couple hours, because it's a very short day for them, so it'd be a quick turnaround to come home and then go back. But I rarely would take books out, and I just mostly used it as an ebook library, right? Because if you get an account with the local library, you can get your ebooks through them. But I haven't taken a book out from the library in some time now. So I went there and got Katie a library card, and Calvin already has one, and they each got a couple of books, and I got a stack of books. So
Nice. Yeah, I basically just use my library just for the e-book reader loan thing, like through the Libby app. I haven't been in since I renewed my card, because there's really no need now.
yeah, well, I mean, it's still nice to go thumbing through the stacks, as they say, especially because it can be so frustrating. Like the books that I want to read, because it's like a regional library thing. It's like, well, sorry, your ebook is taken out. It's like, what do you mean? Come on, the ebook is taken out. Just slide me the file. What the fuck are we doing here?
It's like when they would charge for texts.
Oh yeah, I'm back in the day.
Yeah, not to say that. I mean, I understand. Like they are only permitted so many licenses or what have you, and then it's all a cost thing. But still, come on. All right, let's discuss the news of the week. I think the most important thing to discuss is obviously this thing that I led with, which is motherfucking snakes on a motherfucking plane, which I only bring up because it's not apparently the first time in the last couple months this has happened. Headline, CBS News, plane passenger in India caught with 16 live snakes in luggage, including a rhino rat snake. Now, I don't know if a rhino rat snake is particularly bad, but I guess it must be.
It gets its own mention.
But I bring it up not because it happened once, but because within the story, it says in early June, customs and this, by the way, it's customs officers at Mumbai airport. So this is in India, and the plane was coming in from Thailand. And then they point to another story. In early June, customs officers stopped a passenger smuggling dozens of venomous vipers, also arriving from Thailand. Days later, officers stopped another traveler carrying 100 creatures, including lizards, sunbirds, and tree-climbing possums. Apparently, this happens a lot. There's a lot of exotic pet trade. But anyway, I click on that link to the one from earlier in the month, and the headline, CBS News, smuggler caught with dozens of venomous vipers concealed in checked-in baggage on plane. Customs officials said a passenger smuggling dozens of venomous vipers was stopped after flying into the financial capital Mumbai, India, from Thailand, Indian customs officials said. So what the fuck are we doing? 44 Indonesian pit vipers concealed in checked-in baggage.
Well, do you want it to be carried on?
It seems foolish.
No, it goes in checked. Snakes go in checked bags.
I wonder if the Indian version of the TSA is more rigorous than ours. Do you think we would notice?
Nitty said that the hardest time she's ever had flying was within India.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. Maybe they take it more seriously. Because what
They
tipped
took
them
her
off?
nail clippers.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah?
yeah. They're like,
What-
what are these? What is it? And she's like, just take it. I don't care. But like, she said the hardest time. This was in 9/11 being a
Okay.
brown person context. Like, she never had trouble in the U.S. She had trouble within India.
That's crazy. I just wonder, like, what tipped off these snakes? Like, were they just making noise, or just like a random search? They're like, oh, unlucky day for you. Like,
They were probably moving.
I imagine all of the snakes were wriggling and writhing about inside the
you know, they
luggage.
sedate those snakes, or I mean, you gotta have a plan.
If you pick up a suit, even if you went with because if you're smart, you don't go with the canvas suitcase. You go with the hard plastic
case.
Yes.
suitcase. But still, you go and you pick up a suitcase
The weight
full
shifts
of
around.
dozens of live snakes. I imagine that there's something of a giveaway there when you go to try to move that around.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, it probably shows up pretty clear if it makes its way through one of those X-ray
Scan-
machines,
yeah.
right?
It's a lot of ropes. Just let me through.
As I said, I think before we started the show, I said there's a morbid headline here out of Missouri. Missouri cereal plant worker dies after getting trapped inside industrial oven. I don't think we're going to hear from Donald Trump on this, except in possibly the most offensive way. And if I worked in the Trump White House, I would because apparently he does a great deal of his reading comes from, like, he's got this chick who's probably kind of hot. I don't know for sure, but like he only surrounds like the young women. He likes to have the young, attractive women around him all the time. Apparently, one of them has a portable printer that she like keeps on her side, like in her purse or something, so that she can print out relevant stories for the president to see. And like, you know, he likes good news. If I
You know
were,
who else won't read anything on a screen?
what's that?
You know who else won't read anything on a screen?
I mean, let's not take this too far. Abe loves to have things printed out for him to.
Sure. My
review.
boss, Todd Toms, needs it printed out.
The guy who you believe is like Trump in many ways.
In many, many ways.
A worker at a Missouri cereal plant died after getting trapped in an industrial oven that was shut off, police said. Now, why would I want this to come to the attention of the president, you might ask? And the reason is because you get to the fourth paragraph, also the fourth sentence or so of this story. It says, police and the Perry County Coroner's Office identified the man as Nicolas Lopez Gomez, a 38-year-old Guatemalan national. He was working under the alias of Edward Avila, police said. So, what we have on our hands here, in all likelihood, is an illegal immigrant of some form or another. I mean, if he's working under an assumed name,
Right.
one imagines that he must be here without papers. The company said that the worker, who had been an employee for 9 years, was, quote, fatally injured in a cereal drying system that was out of service, end quote. It was not yet clear how the worker got trapped, and his cause of death was under investigation. OSHA has been contacted about the incident and will conduct an investigation. Like I said, I want this brought to the president's attention simply because I think that he would make hilarious posts about it.
Oh, you think so?
I mean, an illegal immigrant getting trapped in a cereal oven in Missouri?
It stated it was out of service. Like how? Like I guess the OSHA will find out what happened. But like, what happened? Like it's not like somebody got stuck in like a frozen, cooler that wouldn't open.
Right. No, it's a great question. I look forward to seeing how it resolves itself. Also, the last sentence in the article is, last year, a 19-year-old female employee at a Walmart in Canada was found dead inside a walk-in oven at the store's bakery department. The death was not suspicious, police said following an investigation. So what I especially like about weirdo one-off news stories like Missouri illegal alien Guatemalan dies in an industrial cereal oven is that the news will always remind you at the bottom of the story about any other
Yes.
similar weirdo deaths that like because it does your brain are they getting ahead of you as the news consumer saying
Yes.
didn't Didn't I read something not that long ago about somebody else dying in an industrial oven?
That is true. I wonder when do they use this tactic? I don't know why I'm reminded of this. This is, I guess, because he died. Remember that David Carradine guy? He died like jerking off, like trying to asphyxiate himself, right? Like It was a very rough way to go. Do you think that at the end of whatever article came after that news story, like there was like last year, a 23-year-old dude in Manitoba did the same? Like, you think that there are moments where you can refer to a past incident? I think it's like freak accidents. They'll always tag it with some previous incident, but other cases they probably won't.
What do you think that there's an internal tagging system on the news wires that they? Because of course these days everything on the internet is tagged, right?
Yeah.
But like on that story, there's not like industrial oven death. Like I don't think that is in the tags of. Like this isn't the Daily Beast. This is CBS News. Like.
Yeah, I wonder if they have a standardized process for tagging, right? Because like you probably wouldn't get to that granular of a description. Like maybe it'd be like workplace mishap.
Why wouldn't you have the robots do that?
No, it's just. I mean, perhaps you would. It's just funny that you're able to call up recent industrial oven deaths. I mean, it's good that it's rare enough that you can just point to just the one, right?
That was a rough way to go. I mean, you also hear about like some farmer, some old geezer farmer who trips and like his pigs like eat him because they don't care. Like there are rough ways to go.
Speaking of Carradine, he was brought to mind recently because I was on Reddit, and there's a forum there called "What Is It?" or like "What Is This Thing?" or something like that, and it's they just showed a video of this little hooky thing pointing up inside of a closet, and then the person would bring their finger up to it and apply pressure, and the hook would like give. Right, so it would be there, and you could kind of like flick it, and it would return to its normal state, but it had some give to it. And the explanation for it was, oh, this must be a hook inside of a hotel closet, right? And the person was like, yes, because that's the like anti-Carradine hook, because they don't want you to be able to either kill yourself there if they can avoid it, but also the accidental autoerotic asphyxiation clothes hanger, basically.
Wow.
Like, yes, we want you to have a place to hang your jacket, but not to hang your belt.
That's what it's for, and that's it.
That's right.
They had a never again campaign after that incident. Wow, who would have thought?
Yeah, it's like the good version of the homeless spikes on the bench outside the public library, right?
Yeah. What do they call that? Like hostile architecture or something? There's
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something where they don't make it friendly for you to like sleep there.
Yeah. All right, let's stop beating around the bush here, and we should probably discuss a little bit of what went on at the Supreme Court at the end of last week, as the term has ended, and we got a couple of fairly major rulings, although probably not as major as the headlines suggest them to be, at least at this point. The big one was on the question of birthright citizenship, and the court, basically at the behest of the Trump administration, declined to address the merits on whether or not the Trump administration could end birthright citizenship by executive order, and instead just had them rule on whether or not district courts could issue nationwide injunctions against executive orders or other things attempted to be put in place by the executive, ultimately deciding that the injunction racket has gotten out of control, basically, and that it should not be the case that a district judge can just say, whatever the president is up to, I'm going to put the kibosh on that until it works its way through the court system, and 2 years from now, the Supreme Court makes a decision. Instead, the deference is going to be to the executive in most cases, it seems. And that has upset the court's liberals and many more liberal-leaning court watchers as well. I will say, I think that Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent was a bit overheated. It's probably not the end of the republic as we know it. And also, oddly enough, I think that Sonia Sotomayor's, and by the way, I don't think that Jackson was joined by the other two. I think she was basically writing alone as in her dissent, whereas Sotomayor's was the main dissent that was joined by Kagan and Jackson. And Sotomayor was a bit more measured in her reading of things, and I think probably I'm more sympathetic to what she was saying. But also, I don't think that this was nearly as big a deal as all of the headlines have made it out to be, and certainly not as big a deal as Trump himself and the administration have painted it as. They're suggesting that this means that they can now go back to court and get all of the injunctions that have been ways that they've been ruled against in the first few months of this administration and have those overturned. I don't think that's quite the case. I do think also that it was incredibly cowardly of the Supreme Court not to say right now, and by the way, this birthright citizenship thing is total bullshit.
Right.
Because at no point along this process have the lower courts been even the least bit favorable to the Trump administration's claim that they're able to just eliminate birthright citizenship outright. And I still don't see how it can be anything but a 9-0 ruling against this on the merits here. And we'll probably find out in the next term, right? Because it's going to be a couple of this has basically just been kicked back down, and they will find they will turn this into some sort of class action suit or something like that, and we'll see this case before the Supreme Court again in the future. And as far as I can tell, there's no workable way in which you could say, well, in Rhode Island, if you're born there, you're going to be a citizen, but that doesn't transfer to Texas or Missouri or one of the other redder-leaning states. That's not how any of this works, right? You get a driver's license in New Jersey, it's good in the other 49 states. The same should go with citizenship, right? That if the Secretary of State of California says this person is a citizen, then that's going to generally be good enough.
Right. I mean, you're not a citizen of New Hampshire, right? You're a citizen of the United States. That's what's weird about this case. I find it odd, and this has been a recurring thing with this Roberts Court. The one phrase that comes to mind is that you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes we're like in a vacuum, you can actually argue for a lot of the things that they've ruled on over the last 10, 15 years, but like they don't seem to take into account that you're basically creating a permission structure for somebody who wants to exploit these positions to their benefit, right? So in this case, it's weird that you would take a birthright citizenship case as your vehicle to argue whether or not universal injunctions should be allowed or not. I mean, you could...
but that's the thing. That was the Trump administration's plan here, right? Yeah. They did not want the Supreme Court to rule on this, so they essentially said, "Hey, rule on this other thing instead. We're not defending the merits of this executive order in this moment. Instead, we want to say that this judge in California or this judge in Louisiana shouldn't be permitted to issue a nationwide injunction against the president's executive action." Right. And that's not fair, basically.
Right. And it should be noted that it's not just the Trump administration that didn't like this. When Biden had the student loans thing, like the conservatives went before a friendly judge, like in Texas, to do a nationwide injunction. So like this was...
Right, and there's a Kagan quote floating around from a couple of years ago where Kagan says, like, this can't be right? Like, it can't be the case that if you just find the right judge that they can put the kibosh on executive action for 2 to 3 years while it gets slowed down in the courts, right? Like this can't be how things are intended to work, and that's Elena Kagan saying that. Right. So it's not just a conservative position at all.
Right. And so like if this were like tied to some other case, some other issue, then it would be fine. The fact that they use birthright citizenship as your test case, and they are making this weird ruling to where like, okay, we're not going to decide on this clearly unconstitutional posture from the administration. We'll let we'll let it go through the normal process and we'll argue about this later. Like, what's to stop any administration going forward to issue executive order after executive order, cause whatever harm that they can while it's going through the courts, like at each state, for each state, and then once it gets struck down, come up with a new executive order slightly worded differently and reset the clock, right? You can exploit this process to cause a lot of harm because it takes time for people to do class action lawsuits or other.
Specifically, I think you can argue fairly convincingly that is already what Trump is doing here, right? By asking the court not to rule on the merits and instead to go to the nationwide injunction route, even if they ruled against them on the nationwide injunction thing, then they're still asking them not to respond to the merits here and to come back another time and do that. And so they're setting themselves up for the thing that Trump wants more than anything, which is to just have this all fight out in the courts. And he doesn't fucking care, right? Like I mean, to some extent, and you brought up the student loan thing, it is shitty. And this goes back, I think that the thing that people point to most frequently is Barack Obama and the immigration stuff, right? Because he wasn't going to be able to get what he wanted on that. Through the normal order, through the legislature, through Congress. And so instead he's like, well, I've got my pen, right? And he was the one who sort of kicked off this current moment of executive action utterly devoid of the normal lawful process.
Oh, this is like DACA, you mean? Like the deferred action?
Right.
Okay.
It's a one single issue, right? And you're like, well, at least he's on the right side of history here, right? Most people are on the side of the dreamers, so let Obama do this, and it is ultimately for the good. Well, then you've opened the door, right? And now Trump goes and does it a bunch in his first term. Biden does it a bunch of times with the student loan stuff, despite knowing that it's against. I think there are quotes from him and also people in the administration saying, well, yeah, we don't expect this to work. We expect this to get overturned in court. But for the next 2 years, it is to our benefit politically to have this issue. And so we are going to behave in this incredibly lawless fashion.
Right.
And to me, that should actually play a role in, if you can dismiss this with contempt, right? You should pay some fucking price for knowingly simply throwing shit into the legal system because it is to your benefit politically, even if you lose, right? And ultimately, this is to Trump's benefit, even though he's going to lose, because people are on his side. Some psychotic number of Americans believe that there shouldn't be birthright citizenship, right? Because they simply don't understand the history. They don't know that this is something that's been part of our Constitution since the second founding. And that if you think about it for even half a second, it is weird to have an America that doesn't include the right of people born here to be citizens here, right? What is that? I get weird and emotional about it usually when I think about it too much, but it's sort of the whole thing here that the individual is not subject to the government. That instead the government is of, for, and by the people. Right. It's. I don't know how you can, if you think about what it is this country means, that you can end up on the wrong side of birthright citizenship. And I know, yeah, sure. Show me the examples of people who have quote unquote anchor babies, right? I'm sure people take advantage of things in ways that are unfortunate and too fucking bad, right? That's just part of the deal. Right. That's just you accept the same way that you accept speech that is abhorrent to you, because free speech in general is the principle that we believe that humans ought to live by. You accept the notion of the occasional anchor baby. Because a human who is born here of no volition of their own should not suffer because of it.
Right. Going back to the point I was saying about the Supreme Court they don't seem to consider anything outside of just very narrow parameters, right? But what they're doing is they're creating this environment to where going forward, okay, so there was the presidential immunity case, right? Basically saying if you can plausibly make the case that it's a presidential act, then you're immune from any sort of criminal prosecution, right? And then they don't explain what that means, like what is a presidential act versus not, right? So now you have that. So basically, a president is more or less immune, for the large part, right? And now you have this case saying that, you have to go through all of these different processes to get something stopped that a president wants. And so, there's nothing going forward. It's going to embolden. You said,
I should make it plain here. I don't think I did. Basically, it's instead of if something happens and a judge agrees that you have a case and that you are being harmed in a way and rules in your favor, the injunction applies only to you, right? So that we can then figure it out rather than applying to everyone.
Right.
And you can make an argument that if you bring instead a class action and you say that the class of people is those who are born here whose parents are undocumented, then all of a sudden maybe you can say this applies to more than just the one individual in question here. But because it was brought by an individual, it becomes what the court is saying here is that it is logical or legal only for it to apply to that individual instead of to the entire country. And it's a position that I have some sort of sympathy for, right? I'm with Kagan in that regard. It is kind of wild that because we have this problem of judge shopping that we've talked about before, or forum shopping, where you can go and know that if you bring this, even though this is something that is happening in Connecticut, but if you bring it to Texas, the Trump administration is going to get a favorable ruling from the district judge down in Texas. And similarly, the Biden administration would shop judges and go to California or something, or go to D.C. and get the correct outcome that they were after. And it's it is obviously wrong that you should be permitted to do that and sort of lawfare your way to the result that you want. I don't know how you fix it. I don't know what the correct solution is here, because it is such a symptom of our broken situation generally, right? It is a situation that is created out of dysfunction, and it is itself a form of dysfunction, but it's just a symptom of dysfunction more than it is anything else. And I don't know what the solution to it is.
The one thing that that I think should be considered is the harm. There is some harm that you can't undo. So if you're going to let the process play out while that's happening, there could be some actions taken that you can't undo, right? So you can deport somebody while let's say if you say this class of people are now fuck all the rules, you're not a citizen anymore, and then with all this extra money that ICE has, they begin rounding people up and sending them out of the country, right? And as it's going through the courts, some people have already been sent to wherever, right? An injunction would have stopped that, saying hey, let's settle down until we make a ruling, and then you can take your action. There should be some sort of irreparable harm standard. With the student loan thing, it doesn't matter, it's just money, so let the process play out while you're deciding. But if it's something where you can't undo that damage while you let the process play out, that should be treated differently. Because how can you undo the harm that's going to be done while you're deciding? And then what if you decide in the favor of the person who's been harmed? What happens then?
Yeah.
Are you going to talk about Jim Ryan?
We can probably bring it up. I don't know that I care enough, but
what's this Jim Ryan thing?
University of Virginia president who was pressured into resigning.
What happened there? He got forced out?
I don't know.
Real quick, let's finish up a couple other SCOTUS cases. I understand where you're coming there as some sort of irreparable harm standard. I don't know. That is just begging for abuse.
It is,
yeah.
I think every option, there is the possibility for abuse, and basically it's kind of pick your poison almost. Which is the least harmful path forward?
Yeah. There was the case that we discussed, I think, when it was argued before the court a few months ago, about the gay books in kindergarten.
That's right,
and, predictably enough, the court ruled in favor of the parents and their ability to opt their children out of that particular curriculum.
Yeah, that was your neck of the woods. Was it Virginia? Or was it was a Muslim kind of angle, or is it Maryland?
Was it Virginia or was it Maryland?
It
I know I
was,
got the state wrong when we discussed it. I think I initially said it was Connecticut.
Okay. It's either Virginia or Maryland. I forget which.
Supreme Court on Friday ruled in favor of a group of Maryland parents who challenged their school district's decision to deny them the ability to opt their elementary-age children out of instruction featuring storybooks that address gender identity and sexual orientation. High Court said in a 6-3 decision that the government burdens parents' religious exercise when it requires their children to participate in instruction that violates the family's religious beliefs. The three liberals, of course, dissented.
I am shocked at that 6-3. How is it not 9-0? Because I think when we talked about it, I was surprised that this was even a thing. I thought parents had a lot of discretion as far as what their kids consume in school. You know, for the large part, you know, they're given some wiggle room.
I think I complimented Sotomayor earlier, saying that her dissent was the more reasonable one in the most recent, or in the birthright citizenship case. Here, she's a bit overheated. She says, reading aloud from the bench, simply being exposed to beliefs contrary to your own does not amount to prohibiting the free exercise of religion. The result will be chaos for this nation's public schools, requiring schools to provide advance notice and the chance to opt out of every lesson plan or story time that might implicate a parent's religious beliefs will impose impossible administrative burdens on schools, Sotomayor wrote, later warning that it would force courts to resolve a new font of litigation and leave judges as the decision makers on policy governing school material related to gender and sexuality. I suspect that is not what's going to happen.
That is definitely not what's going to happen.
Instead, there will simply be another line item on the survey that I get every year before my kids go to school, which includes what is their name, what is their preferred name, and what are their preferred pronouns. Right. There'll probably be just one more in there that's like, hey, do you object to any of the curriculum that we might be teaching them? And if so, would you like to talk about it? Right? Like I imagine it's something along those lines.
It's remarkable that this is even a 6. It should be unanimous. Like, give the parents some discretion here. Already, you know, parents can take voucher money and go to like private schools in some states or charter schools in other types of educational settings. They could be homeschooled. So parents have wiggle room as it is. Like, you should allow parents some flexibility in the public school system, if for no other reason than to encourage the public school system from falling apart. Like, let the parents have some say. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to be the end of the world.
The last one that is worth mentioning, I think, is the free speech case out of Texas. It was a Texas law requiring certain commercial websites publishing sexually explicit content that is obscene to minors to verify that visitors are 18 or older. And they ruled that it is not an undue or severe burden on the websites, and it is not an infringement upon the free speech of grown-ass adults to have to verify your age before looking at the nudie magazines on the internet or whatever it is that people do.
And also, VPNs exist, folks. I don't know what's going on. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. You can use these VPNs to get around some of these blocks. And also, these websites, they're basically just doing away with those states. So they're not even going through the process. I think like Pornhub is one of them, where they're just like, we're just not going to do business in Texas and Georgia and other states that have these rules.
Right. Virginia has some version of this, I believe, where they require age verification, and so some of the porno tube sites have stopped operating if you are a Virginia resident. And like, I don't know where I am on this. I think that I'm ultimately on the side of I will default to the free speech absolutist end of things here, and basically saying, this is a losing battle.
I mean,
anyway.
You're just pissing at the wind, regardless of what you're...
Like, how does this apply to Twitter, for example,
Right.
is my first question. Because you can get on Twitter and see an endless array of fucking porno, if that's what you're interested in finding there. And there's no age verification on Twitter. And I think there's like a button that's like, hey, this is not safe. situation here. Would you like to see it? It's like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's remarkable that this is an issue this late in the stage of the internet, because like the internet is overrun with filth, right? Like I don't understand what this is going to do to prevent 13-year-old boys from figuring out how to get around this age verification thing. They'll figure it out like pretty quickly.
Right. And like at the same time, the reason that it is a difficult subject to defend is because it's like, oh yeah, your free speech rights so that you can yerk off to the porno, you fucking sicko. Like, well, no, it can be any of a billion other things.
But also, yeah.
Like, it's weird that I should have to effectively use a government ID to put into a database that I am of age to look at this naughty material, right? Because that goes and it sits somewhere, right? Like if I have to, for example, if I have to show a photo of my driver's license to FanDuel when I first registered, right? I had to take a photograph of my driver's license and verify that I was who I was and that I lived where I said that I lived. And like, in another time that I would feel weird about the idea that like my name is now in a database somewhere, but like that's a little different because that's like this is a monetary interaction. Like
right.
Then I go on and I link my bank with it, and so now I've got like all sorts of different weird interactions going on there, and I'm exposed in some way to potential negative outcomes, like having my identity stolen because do I trust FanDuel and their security operation to make sure that my banking information doesn't get out, right? And this is a ship that has sailed so fucking long ago when it comes to one's interactions on the internet. Like I used to be much more circumspect about buying shit online, right?
Yes.
Like basically it was Amazon, and I would feel nervous or weird about buying stuff almost anywhere else. Like Amazon was a trusted vendor for me, and nowhere else would I put my credit card or my debit card information in because I was a fucking paranoiac about it, and I didn't want it getting out there and having to deal with those consequences. If the only way to look at titties on the internet was to send a photograph of my driver's license to the fine people at some weirdo, like where are they, in Denmark or the Netherlands or something? Like it's some weirdo Scandinavian porno conglomerate that owns like the vast majority of porn. Or like that's where they're based anyway. But like do I want that out there so that eventually when they have their data is compromised in some way?
Would you start buying physical media?
It's like the Ashley Madison thing. Like the main reason to not sign up for Ashley Madison is because when they have that leak, all of you, I mean, obviously also Ashley Madison is a site where you intend to cheat on your spouse, so you shouldn't do that. But also a good reason to not sign up for Ashley Madison and use your real name is because eventually that data gets leaked and you look like a fucking asshole humiliated in front of the whole world, right? And then like, not only that, but like there are people who would like as a joke sign you up with your email for Ashley Madison or for some, like it used to be a thing where you could prank somebody by signing them up for a magazine or something, and now the magazine is delivered to their house. And it didn't cost you anything because the first 3 months of the magazine are 99 cents or something like that, right? And so now fucking Playgirl goes to your buddy's house and it's the funniest thing in the world. But it's not just this idea that I should be free to privately look at titties on the internet if that's what I want to do without having to involve the government in any way. That is, yes, some small part of it, but also just the idea that anywhere I go online where there might be explicit content, now I have to prove myself. Like what happened to anonymity on Twitter or any of the other social media sites? This is a ruling that might have weird fingers in a way that it's not entirely limited to just making sure that kids can't look at porno.
Right. I don't know what happened to the conspiracy ecosystem online. It seems it has collapsed in the last few years. But like I would imagine there would be a conspiracy theory about introducing this so late into the internet world because didn't they say that pornography normalized the use of credit cards online back in the day. Like they were kind of like at the forefront.
Is
of
that what
this.
it was? That's funny.
Yeah, and then everybody else is like, okay, it's become
For
normalized.
me, it was like gambling. I think.
Okay.
Like that. When I went to open my first illegal gambling account at like bet.eu. Whatever the fuck, like.
Yeah.
And I would have to go, and I would try to use my credit card, and it'd be like, "No, you can't use an American credit card, you dummy." It's like, "Oh, come on!"
Yeah.
And so I'd go to Walmart and buy like $100 gift card, or like Visa.
When was this?
Back in like 2008, 2009.
Hopefully the statute of limitations is up.
Yeah. I think I still get emails from bookmaker.eu, which
I
was
use them too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my bookie back in the day. But yeah, like that was absolutely it. When like, yeah, I'll give you my real email address. I will attempt to give you my real credit card information. Just let me put the $200 in the fucking fun machine, so that I can have some fun. I don't care. I think the way that you come to terms with it is like they know everything anyway. It's sort of like it's the opposite of the idea of cheating on your taxes,
right.
Which is like, I mean, come on. They're going to come after me if I don't properly declare, like if I claim that I have all of these receipts that I don't actually have. But like, yeah, come on. Like, come on, Like, and so I saved a few $100s or something on my taxes this year because I claimed some shit that I can't actually document. Yeah. Like, oh, they're going to come after me. It's the opposite of that. Like, yeah, everybody knows everything about everything. Right. And the only reason that I'm out here on the internet in incognito mode is so I don't have to deal with the shameful search history myself, right? Like, I recognize that the service provider and Google and everybody else is tracking me everywhere the fuck that I go. Fine. Like, what? You care? Like, who fucking cares?
Right.
I just don't want to have to know about it.
Right.
I think that we've, like, that ship has sailed. So maybe, on the other hand, like, this sort of normalization of, no, you have to be who you are everywhere you go, and everyone will know that you are who you are everywhere that you go on the internet,
right.
is sort of in a backwards way good. It's like acknowledging the thing that we all sort of implicitly know already, which is that we're not anonymous out there.
Right. Well, it goes along with your everybody having nudes thing.
Right. It's along the same lines of, like, eventually, and with AI, it's inevitable. Like, you just take a photo of somebody and you're like, here, make me some nudes out of this person. Right. Even if their nudes aren't out there. Right. Like, you can do close enough to humiliate or embarrass them. Like, at some point, it's just going to be, we're all walking around. We've got, like, creepy Zuckerberg meta glasses on. And, like, somebody's going to have an app on their eyeglasses that's like, hey, take the clothes off this person as they're walking by me.
Right.
And we all have to deal with that inevitable future.
You know, there were some scammers out of North Korea where they're pretending that they're somebody else, and they would do like a video conference, like on a Zoom call, right? And they would use some filtering technology to pretend that they're somebody else. And so as long as they don't move too fast,
oh yeah, I saw some video of that where they got caught because they did move too fast, and you could see the person behind the mask or whatever.
Right, and these are early days, right, of this technology, right? In a couple of years, this stupid little ID thing's gonna be pointless. You'll be able to kind of like generate an ID for me that's gonna pass whatever thing that they're using without actually sending your actual ID.
Yeah. Does the primary victory of Mamdani in New York mean anything?
You know, not yet. I would like to see how this plays out in the general, because like we were talking about this right before the election happened. And by the way, New York, you have to figure out how to count votes much faster than the way they go about it. Thankfully, it was decisive enough to where Cuomo knew that he lost, but like initially they were like, oh, this could take a few days to kind of sort out, figure it out.
I don't think it's done yet, right?
Yeah, it's not officially done, but basically like Cuomo, like I think he had like a benchmark ahead, like he needed to be ahead in the first votes, in the first choice votes to have a chance. But anyways, even before then, Cuomo raised the possibility that if he were to come in second, he would still run as under a different party or as an independent in the fall. So like now, he's basically going to do that. So now you got Mamdani under the...
That's not decided. He has not announced that yet, right?
I think he's basically going to run because all of this brouhaha that has happened since the election outcome, especially how decisive it was, how quickly he won, is going to make it all but certain that Cuomo is going to run in the fall. So now you have a very unpopular Adams, current mayor. I don't know how much support he's going to have. He was like on Fox News trying to drum up his support, and Mamdani and Cuomo. So like if it's a three-way race, I don't know how that shakes out, and I don't know if like.
Did you watch? I think it was Meet the Press. Did you watch Meet the Press this weekend?
Where like he was kind of like wouldn't like just disavow like a phrase.
Yeah, he was on with Kristen Welker. She gave him the Austin Powers treatment, trying to ask the same question 3 times to force the answer. It didn't work. He's dangerously good at what he does in terms of being able to talk and communicate. And I say dangerously good because I think that he has very bad ideas about how, like, the amount of government that we should have in our everyday lives, including wanting to sort of fix rent all across New York City, right? And have rent controls in place forever. And he's like, well, 10% of all apartments in New York already rent controlled. So what's the big deal if we did all of them? And then he's like, and also he wants to have government run grocery stores, and he wants to do free childcare for all children. And like someone who is that hostile to the free market in general is not someone that I want running the global financial capital of the world, and certainly not ideal for New York City, I think. Not my problem, ultimately.
Does it make me a bad person to I want to see how this plays out? Because I don't live in New York City, and some of these ideas are, I constantly hear about how this won't work because of this reason, this won't work because of that reason. If enough New Yorkers want this guy, it's a perfect kind of race for, let's try this out. It's going to be localized to New York City. I know it's like the biggest city in the country and blah, 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 blah. But this is not like the president of the United States or something.
Well, in order to do those things, he has to raise taxes, and then to do that, he needs the state legislature of New York behind him. And it's not clear that anyone in New York, and Hochul has made it clear that she won't sign any legislation that raises taxes, even on the 1%.
Right. So the most likely outcome in any result here is there's going to whatever the stuff that they want that gets them elected, whichever candidate wins, it's not going to happen, and they'll end up being somewhere ineffective. I don't understand why there's this freak out.
What's the Chicago mayor's name? Do you know off the top of your head?
Johnson, I don't know. Something Johnson.
The Chicago mayor has an approval rating of 6%.
Right.
Yeah, Brandon Johnson is right.
But
I heard
Adams has a pretty low. I mean, it's not that low, but these major city mayors are not very popular. But no one is popular. Whomever becomes mayor of New York is not going to be popular. You have Cuomo, who I thought was dead politically. He's back. Adams is not liked. This guy has a lot of promises. He's not going to be able to actually carry them out, and so people are going to get this, satisfied with him at some point. To me, it seems like this is a very safe kind of race. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. He is very effective as a communicator, though, and he's very young, the son of academics, I believe.
Yeah.
Not really had a real job in his life as far as
He was like an assemblyman,
I know.
right? Yeah, but not in the private sector.
Yeah. I don't think that this, obviously the Republicans are excited to have him as a foil. I think that's safe to say. There is an element of his ability to give the people what it is they think that they want, or at least speak to their anger and concerns about the world and how unfair everything is. That is obviously an echo from the other side of the Trump phenomenon, but that's the reality of living in a populist moment, I think. And it's funny that your best case scenario is, in all likelihood, he's not going to get shit done. So he will prove to have been ineffective, and therefore, what's the harm? It is also fairly fucking depressing to think of that being the best case scenario.
Well, I mean, I guess the best. Okay,
the system is such an intractable disaster
Right.
that even someone pure of heart and with good ideas, I don't think they are good ideas, but someone who thinks that they have good ideas about how the government can function better for the everyday asshole, has essentially zero chance of actually enacting any of those ideas.
But I mean, it just speaks to how hard it is to get things done in the system that we have. Basically is designed for nothing to happen or for very little to happen. And sometimes that's good, but a lot of times it's bad. It kind of stands in the way of progress. But like, try these things. I mean, you heard about the congestion pricing thing. I don't keep too much track of that, but like, what if in a few years they look back and say, okay, that actually did improve the quality of life of people in Lower Manhattan? I don't live there. I mean, it sucks for the people of New Jersey that have to pay, but if the design works, you will know it years down the road. It won't happen in the moment. And same thing with this grocery store thing. From what I gather, like the profit margins are like razor thin as it is, right? So I don't know how you can improve on what private industry can do when it comes to groceries. So I don't know.
The thing that the obvious one to me, and he got in trouble for not disavowing the use of the phrase "globalize the Intifada," even though he's not a person who said it apparently, but like he's been asked to condemn the use of "globalize the Intifada" because of how offended people are by it. And like it's obviously a provocation along the lines of Black Lives Matter, and probably even worse than that. The Intifada being a bad result for human beings in terms of dead Jews.
Right. It should be noted, Black Lives Matter as it stands does not make such a thing, right? It's not the same thing. Like, I mean,
no, but to say that it's not a political provocation
Right,
and it's just a statement of innocuous fact would be to rob it of its potency, right? Like the whole point of it is that it's a provocation. It's attempting to induce the guilt upon the person who hears it for having permitted a world to go on in which the apparent result is that Black lives do not in fact matter, right? Like the point is that it's supposed to be a punch in the balls, and to say that it's not supposed to be a punch in the balls, this whatever, we don't have to relitigate that.
No, I know what you're saying, but like to me, I always thought the Intifada was kind of like a very assertive, like it's like an uprising or like some action. And they're saying like global. I mean, it's very suggestive, like that phrase. Like, and I understand Black Lives Matter is also a political phrase, but to me, it doesn't register in the same way. Like the Intifada thing seems to be a very provocative thing, whereas the Black Lives Matter thing,
right, especially for Jews and Israeli Jews in particular, right? Because it's a result of many dead people. And guerrilla violence done against them, and his unwillingness, seeming unwillingness to say, yeah, that's bad, is not great in sort of the capital of American Jewry, which is what New York City has been for a very long time. And I forget where I was going here. I got sidetracked by the Black Lives Matter thing, but I was going to not say anything about globalize the Intifada, and then I got distracted saying things about it. Obviously, like it's dumb for him to have to say, I condemn the use of a phrase that he has never in fact used, but also because of who is in his coalition, and the loudest part of his coalition are like virulent anti-Semites who don't believe that Israel has a right to exist on the planet Earth, right? These are the from the river to the sea type of people who associate with him, and he doesn't want to throw them out because they are part of his constituency, and they need to believe that he's a fellow traveler in that regard, and to throw them out would be to go against that. But also, I don't fucking care if he condemns it or not. The thing that I think that he should be smarter about is where he starts defending the use of phrases like, we are going to tax white neighborhoods more fairly in the future. And it doesn't matter that he's able to sort of explain it in terms of, well, I'm just describing the demographic reality of this particular zip code or this particular neighborhood. and noting that historically they have not paid a similarly fair share of their property tax burden that this minority neighborhood has. It doesn't matter that you can make that point. People are not sociologists, right. And like everything is not fucking sociology. We do not all have graduate degrees, and somebody who claims to be a populist and just speaking to and for the working man should recognize that the use of the phrase "we're going to tax the white neighborhoods more" reads to most normal people as "we're going to tax white people more," right? And it is just very dumb politically to stick to that sort of bullshit sociology or anthropological understanding of things. It's very activist language. It's very much of like speaking to and from an activist perspective. And I don't know what it gains you in terms of political power. If anything, it just makes you seem like a crazy person, right. And someone who is trying to tax white people more, and like it's just too easy to weaponize against you. Let it go.
Right. This appears to be yet another example of better to double down than to apologize. Like there seems to be a conclusion has been reached in all politics now, where like don't ever say you're wrong about anything, right? Like do anything but that, because like he could easily just say like I was flippant in the way that I articulated the point, and for that I apologize. That's not what I'm, like there's ways to kind of get off this point.
You can even just say obviously even if we had this language on our website, I don't care for that language. The reality is that every neighbor, New York is the great internationalist city on the planet. Right. Every neighborhood is white and black and brown and all of the rest, and like we just want what's best for each of our neighborhoods. Like, and you don't have to back off the policy at all. You just have to back off the stupid fucking rhetoric.
Right. But apparently there seems to be like no upside, or at least that's the conclusion many people in the political sphere have reached. Like, just you're not going to lose any supporters by just being stubborn or just kind of like wiggling your way out of answering a direct question.
Is it possible that because Cuomo is such a creature of the establishment, but does not have any of the establishment support, right? Like he's the definition of an establishment candidate, but the Democratic machine has no interest in supporting him, seemingly, and so therefore he's a machine candidate without a machine behind him. Does that mean that like Mayor Eric Adams, who made a corrupt deal with the Trump administration, is the most likely, like if you're going to back somebody here to avoid the Marxist from taking over New York City, that it ends up being Eric Adams reelected again? I
don't see any scenario where Adams wins, but it would be amusing if he somehow found a way to win because of these factors. By the way, I should speak to how bad the political environment is, to where like these are like the best candidates for the biggest city in the country. Like Adams, just awful mayor by all accounts. I don't live there. Cuomo just he had to resign in disgrace just a couple of years ago, and then like an upstart kid. Like there's like you can't find better candidates in this city. It's just weird. Yeah. Like it just speaks to like how like
the hubris. I'm sorry.
It's such a degrading process to be a politician that it would only attract people who are okay with that.
You said upstart kid, and like normally I bristle at this idea that like young people can't figure shit out and make things work. But like he's 33 and he's never really done anything. Like he was an assemblyman briefly, and like he doesn't. What is the indication in his background that this is an enormous job? Yeah. Which is not to say that Adams did it well, but like Cuomo is an effective administrator of the mayoralty. How do you say that word? There's no indication whatsoever that this kid has just the basic organizational and leadership abilities to do something like this.
But
like the task is enormous.
All right. So the last good mayor I can think of in New York is Bloomberg, right? De Blasio, from what I gathered, wasn't very good. Adams isn't very good. It's not like a hard bar to clear. How hard could it be to run the city? Like it seems like it runs itself from the most part.
Run it well?
Maybe just get out of the way.
It
Maybe
helps
that's
to be
a strategy.
really fucking bright, like Mike Bloomberg, apparently, right?
Yeah. So like maybe there aren't too many Bloombergs out there. So like I don't know. Like we'll see. I'm sure he's not gonna do worse than De Blasio and Adams, right? He'll probably be better than those two.
Yeah. All right. Quickly here on the relative home front, the University of Virginia president Jim Ryan resigned this week after pressure from the Justice Department. Apparently, there had been a legal battle going on, much in the same way that the Trump administration has been going after colleges and universities all over the country, most prominently, of course, Harvard, attacking their DEI policies and asking them to walk back diversity and inclusion and equity initiatives in order to, under the threat of having federal funding withheld for the violation of civil rights. And I think at some points making fair claims about what has gone on in higher ed in the last decade or so, right? Like Harvard was found to be unfairly biasing against Asian students in the past, right? Doing harm to a group of people or individuals within a group of people because of their group association, which is like a plain violation of civil rights. Right. And it is, you can have the affirmative action conversation every which way you want to. The bottom line is that some of these policies had gone too far, and in fact, were going back in the other direction and causing civil rights harms to individuals. And the problem that was going on here at UVA, Jim Ryan has been a vocal and proud proponent of DEI initiatives for years. It's sort of been his calling card here at the university, and that came back to bite him in the ass because the Justice Department effectively sent a letter to, I don't know if it was officially, I think I saw something today where it was basically written out. But basically they said either Jim Ryan goes or the federal funding is withheld from the University of Virginia. And Ryan did not have the backing of the institution where they were going to be willing to fight in court to say, no, we made the changes that were necessary. We have capitulated in certain ways on these things, and Jim Ryan is not the problem. Instead, the Trump administration wanted his head on a spike, and the people at UVA apparently were unwilling to prevent that from happening, so Ryan resigned. And I find this to be, even as I say things about the war against DEI in some slightly favorable way in terms of I don't appreciate the ways in which it infringed upon people's civil rights, I even more so don't care for the Justice Department of the federal government deciding who is and who is not permitted to head universities at the state level. I don't understand that at all.
Right. It seems like it's just kind of weaponizing like an issue that is actually happening for just to kind of throw their weight around. Like it seems like they're just kind of like, okay, we see a vulnerability here at these schools that we don't like, and so we're going to apply pressure just to kind of, show our power. And I guess, the people resigning is not the end of the world. He can find some lucrative job somewhere. But it seems like it's like trying to send a message, like, you're going to play ball or we're going to come after you. Like, and that's going to be the position for the next 4 years. I forgot to share this article, but this is a University of Florida story where this white nationalist wrote this paper saying that basically he was making this incendiary argument that the Constitution is only applicable to white people. It was intended to only apply to white people, and he won an award. Not only did he get a decent whatever grade, like he won like some award, and there was this talk about like, okay, so there is some freedom that you're allowed to have at these schools, but if you wrote something else, like, I don't know, the 1619 whatever, at the same school, same argument, and if you won an award, I would imagine that the federal government will come down hard on them. But this one is just like, oh, it's an academic exercise. You should give people some wiggle room to make whatever arguments they want, even if it's an argument that you would not support. it's very like discretionary. Like, you know, you can make an argument, but I mean, again, if you want to make that case, you can. It's just like you're applying the standards only when you want to. One interesting,
I'm all for.
quick. Just wanted to add this. After winning the award, this guy's an asshole. Making like he went on X on Twitter and he started expressing his views more openly, and he was saying that Jews must be abolished by any means necessary, and you know the typical white nationalist stuff about. It always comes back to the Jewish people for some reason. Like it started with white, and now it's something about Jews.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in the news, Laura? You wanted to talk about Jim Ryan? Did you have anything to say about Jim Ryan?
No, I just wanted you to talk about Jim Ryan.
Me to talk about Jim Ryan. Did you see this thing in Idaho where the guy set a fire?
What a fucking asshole. Yeah. And it was like some kid, right? Like some 20-year-old?
Some 20-year-old who apparently had designs on becoming a firefighter himself. I don't know if it's one of these like, come back when you're older, kid. You're no good to us here as a firefighter here in Idaho.
Like in The Incredibles.
Right. And like it's a syndrome in The Incredibles type of situation. I have no way of knowing that at this point. But some fucking 20-year-old kid set a fire, and then when firefighters responded, he started sniping them from the woods. It's no good.
You know, other than the potatoes in that blue field, nothing good seems to come out of that state.
Yeah, Idaho's not a place that I want to go.
It's very pretty from what I gather, though.
Weirdos go to hide.
I mean, it's right there near Oregon, and we know all about Oregon.
Oh, that's right.
Eastern Oregon, though.
Speaking of Idaho, there was that crazy killer of those 4 students. He was facing the death penalty, and he pleaded guilty. Like this was a couple of years ago. This was in Idaho. Moscow, Idaho.
In their house?
Yeah, in their house. Like he went and like stabbed them all or whatever. Apparently they found some DNA to like link him to the crimes. He thought he was like a PhD candidate in criminology. I think he was like trying to like be like some smart person.
We talked about this, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, they kind of got him, and so he just, I think today, pled guilty. That which means that the death penalty is off the table, and he'll just get life without parole. I say, why make that plea deal? Go through the whole thing. If you have all the goods, kill this guy. Not that I'm for the death penalty, but you know, if you have it, why not use it?
I don't understand why you should be able to, or why acknowledging your guilt keeps you from the most severe punishment. Yeah. I have never quite understood that. It's either you did the thing or you did not. Right. The punishment should not hinge on whether or not you acknowledge that you did it. This is not my kid who I'm going to decide whether or not they get dessert this weekend if they admit that they fucked up. Yeah. Right?
No, that's how our justice system works.
I mean, I guess the thinking is that, you know, if you plead out early enough, like you're saving, I guess it's like a resource issue, or like, well, you know,
That's not better.
Yeah, it's not better, but basically, like we avoid a trial that we may lose. Like we have a sure thing here, and so we'll do life without paroles. You know, some could argue is even worse than dying soon, right? You're going to be there forever. Maybe they're doing that calculation, but you're right. If you have a case where you have the goods, take it to trial.
All right, let's play some Strassmann. Sadly, I don't have any Strassmann. Again, the CBS website returned like 47 Strassmann stories for the past 30 days, and I think they've just fucked up their situation over there in terms of how they label stuff.
What if they put Strassmann videos going forward behind like a real ID verification thing? What would you do, Bob? Would you submit?
Oh, they can have my ID. That's fine. I will not be denied my Strassmann.
Boobs and Strassmann and gambling.
No, gambling and Strassmann. I have not yet to this point forked over my ID to look at boobs.
Boobs are plenty as it is.
All right. This is instead an old friend of ours who has filled in for Strassmann before, and it's from the Weekend show, so you know it's going to be a lighter fare. Headline: Pair of owls become San Francisco celebrities.
I don't know. Could end in murder.
San Francisco, and something to hoot about. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Itay shows us how a family of owls have joined the ranks of viral bird sensations.
On a hill in San Francisco, known more for its views than its visitors,
look at that.
A quiet crowd has started to gather. Every day, like clockwork, they show up in the same spot, necks craned towards the sky. It might look like a celebrity sighting, and in a way, it is.
Maybe April, I started to see photographers up on the hill here.
What do you make of all of it?
I think it's wonderful.
The newcomers drawing this attention, a pair of great horned owls and their fluffy, wide-eyed chicks.
It's an interesting phenomenon that's happened here.
Liam Murphy is a designer and avid birder. He says even he didn't expect this much flap over a few feathers.
They have kind of like cat-like or almost human-like faces where the eyes face forward.
In a year where birds have been turning into bona fide sensations, like those bald eagles and Big Bear whose nest cam drew millions, this quiet pair has become the toast of San Francisco. Have you ever seen anything like this?
You know, I have not seen this kind of interest.
Whitney Grover is the director of conservation for Golden Gate Bird Alliance. She says great horned owls usually nest much higher up. This pair picked a tree that puts them practically at eye level for anyone walking by.
It's not like an incredible phenomenon that they're there, but it's a great opportunity to see them.
Murphy hopes whatever brings them here, they leave with a little more love for the wild things that share this city, just as long as they don't get too close.
There's a tendency to sort of love them too much. Look at that eucalyptus branch.
Because sometimes the best way to bring a community together is to give a hoot about your neighbors. Itay Had, CBS News, San Francisco.
I know that people complain about the news a lot, or it's, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. And I tuned into the evening news the other night, and it was pretty fucking hot. And the entire newscast was just, boy, it sure was pretty fucking hot. And I'm like, the first 10 minutes was all, it was pretty fucking hot. And then they went to the meteorologist to say, boy, it was pretty fucking hot today. And then they came back from break with a feature on how you can cool your house. If you could put like some buckets of ice behind a fan and just like turn the fan on and stay cool that way. And that was the local news until they got to the sports, and then they did more weather about how it was pretty fucking hot, and then they were done. Why the fuck is this a national news story on CBS Evening News?
So my two of my siblings are producers here locally in Atlanta, and one of them said that the strategy is some sort of scheme. So they open with the bad stuff. Oh, somebody got stabbed and blah, blah, blah. I can't believe how hot it is. And they always end in some sort of frivolous, like, you know, like, oh, look at these stupid owls, or like some local thing, just to kind of like, oh, the world is not the worst thing ever, right? Basically leave on like a things aren't so bad note. And this is serving that purpose.
Comes from the Greeks. They would do the tragedy first and then the comedy.
Yeah, you got to build up, you know.
This is a story about 2 owls in a tree, and I think a couple of owl chicks that are produced by these owls, and the roughly 8 to 10 people who have taken note of the existence of the owls. This was the question that was asked of the expert.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Look how excited he is.
Abe, did CBS Evening News correspondent of some repute, but certainly no meaningful renown like our national correspondent, Mark Strassmann, Itay Todd, get off a good one in the fashion of Mark Strassmann?
No, he did not.
Ooh, sorry, Mark. Try again next time. He certainly tried to, though, didn't he?
I mean, Jarika at the top, she said something to hoot about, and he ended with something about hoot.
That's not fair, by the way. Like, he did all the fucking legwork here. You know he's going to end it with the hoot.
That is true.
Some form or fashion. She's got the script. She knows what's coming, and she steps right on
right.
his best attempt at a good one.
Yeah. Somebody doesn't like that guy. Yeah. This is unbecoming.
Send that CV off to ABC or Fox or somebody. Guy, you've got no future here. Itay at CBS. You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, where you can get more from us, including the Billboard Hot 100 show. Not sure yet how that went this week, but you'll find out in a couple days, no doubt. Brainiron.substack.com for that. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig, tetramermusic.com, TETRAMER music.com. For more from Mark. Abe, did you make it to the movies this week?
I did. I went to go see Brad Pitt's F1 movie.
Ooh, you know what? It's been a little while since I've been to the movie theaters, and the advertisements for F1 and the potential for seeing it in a Dolby Atmos theater with all of the sound and the big screen.
Can we take the children?
I really wanted to go, but I didn't.
Oh, it's a fun theater movie. Like it's the most entertaining movie that I've seen this year, which is not saying much because I went back and looked at the movies that I've seen recently, and they all kind of sucked. This is a Brad Pitt movie. I don't know much about Formula One. I know a little more about NASCAR. I don't know that much about NASCAR. But throughout the whole movie, so the story goes, he's like some aging, like has-been guy, like who's coming back for one more go. And there's this young guy, this British guy, who's like on the same team, but they're like rivals because they're competing for like the star spot. And throughout the movie, he is Brad Pitt using very unethical moves. Like he's kind of like taking advantage of the Supreme Court that's too slow to react. Like he's like cutting people off and forcing cautions and doing all these kind of things, which again, I don't know much about F1, but if I were a fan of it, I'm like, this is not realistic, the way he's going about it. Anyways, the movie is good overall. I will say, my personal experience, the movie took about 40 minutes longer than it should have taken because I don't know what's going on down here in Atlanta, but we've experienced some weird weather. And so as I'm watching this movie, the power cut off 4 different times throughout the movie.
Oh, wow.
Like at the beginning, they do the stupid little previews for like 30 minutes, and then the power just goes out. And they're like, hey, sorry, there's some weather, we'll fix it. 10 minutes goes by, they fix it, the movie continues, and then the power goes out 10 minutes into it. And then the power goes off like an hour. And it happens so many times, and I guess it's a testament to how engaged people were with the movie that only like a couple of people left. People are like, oh, I want to see how this turns out. So no, like hardly anyone left. They were like, we'll give you free tickets whether you stay or go. It doesn't matter. You're going to get free tickets because the experience has been ruined. But
how does that impact your situation?
It did. I just looked at it like they were giving them out at the door. I'm like, come on, I'm a AMC A-list. I don't need your stupid little voucher.
Well, you can take it and like bring a buddy or something, right? Like
half a second
I
after
don't
that,
think Abe likes to bring buddies to movies.
Half a second after thinking like, how dare you? I don't need this. I realized I can give this to somebody, but I could.
I've got siblings.
Yeah, but I couldn't go back. I give them a look like, how dare you? I can't go back and then take their ticket, you know. But again, movie was great. You can't go wrong with it. Again, unless you're an F1 person and it may throw you off, like this is not realistic at all. That was my vibe. Like I don't. This doesn't make sense. But if you like cars and stuff, you know, you'll like it.
Yeah, I was sort of interested to see it and bummed that I didn't pull the trigger on it. But anything else?
No. There's a lot of these movies, like kids-related movies, that I still have no interest in seeing. So next month we should have some more interesting movies. Superman's coming out, Jurassic.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the new Superman movie. I always like the Superman movies.
Yeah.
I even liked Superman Returns back in like 2006.
Oh, really?
I like that one more than most people did, I think. Let's see. We watched
Sonic and that Italian movie.
The first Sonic the Hedgehog movie. We watched it on Roku TV with commercial breaks. It was fine. And the only reason that we watched it is because apparently the second one is pretty good,
You've
and the
not
kids have
seen-
been begging.
This is your first watch?
Yeah, the kids have been begging to watch Sonic for a while now, and like normally I would be like, yeah, fine, whatever, watch it however you want. But like I'd heard that the second one was good or better anyway, and so I wanted to be part of this process. So we watched Sonic.
And Jim Carrey's in it.
Yeah, and Jim Carrey's in it. So let's see what Jim Carrey's up to. It wasn't a very good movie.
No, but it wasn't bad.
Serviceable.
But it was bad in ways
It was bad,
that
but
I think
it
are
wasn't.
just not acceptable. Like there's a laziness to it that I think you're supposed to be willing to forgive because it's a kids movie. But it's like if you get a couple people in a room, you can write yourself out of this utterly nonsensical moment in the movie. And instead they're like, no, it'll be fine. It'll play. It doesn't matter. And like that drives me nuts. And it's when it's in service of something really great, like The Dark Knight. And I think there's a moment in The Dark Knight that always like jumped out to me because it goes from the middle of the day to a night scene.
It goes from
like
evening to night.
one shot to the next. And I think it's like afternoon. It's not just evening to night.
It doesn't. It works because the sun sets.
Yeah, but the
It's
point
not like
is
it goes from night to middle of the day.
it's an irrational time jump in The Dark Knight. But it's okay because since it's part of this
It needs to be nighttime.
Do you think
larger
they
narrative.
cut a scene that would have explained the
No,
gap?
it's just no.
No, I think it's during some sort of chase, so it doesn't make any sense that there would be a time jump here, and instead it just goes from being daytime to nighttime.
Yeah,
and
it's just it goes to nighttime.
it was clear to me in the moment, and it always sort of bothered me a little bit that it like stands out, and the explanation for it is, oh, it doesn't fucking matter. You won't care. Your brain will not care, and that's true for the majority of people. And like I say, in the service of a good project, I'm kind of fine with it, like The Dark Knight. But in a movie like Sonic, where the end product is like a C- at best, like fucking don't just say it doesn't matter because the kids don't fucking notice anyway, right? Like give yourself, have a little bit of self fucking respect and write yourself a scene that explains something. So aside from that, like, whatever. I assume that the second one must actually be good if people were insisting that, oh no, this one is actually good, so you should go check it out, because this was not particularly.
I remember. Is James Marsden in this?
Yes,
Okay.
James Marsden plays the local cop who dreams of making it good in the big city, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And yeah, Sonic shows up. And
I don't have the greatest of memories, but I don't recall there being that significant of an improvement. There was like a slight improvement, but it's more or less, if you like the first one, you like the second one kind of thing.
Well, this is information I could have used fucking before last Friday. I'll tell you that much.
We also watched a very boring movie and weird
We watched on Netflix, I
and
think it
wholly
was
unnecessary as movies go.
Parthenope. Parthenope.
What is that?
It's
Bob's Italian.
It's a movie about
It's a story about a person who never existed.
an absolute smoke show who chain smokes her way through her youth and doesn't find a good reason for being, despite being fairly intelligent.
No, she's not intelligent. The good point that the movie made is that she's not. She's just good at school.
Okay.
I think she's fairly intelligent. I don't think it's unfair to say that she's not intelligent.
But what, she's
I don't
depressed?
think it's unfair to say that.
What's her problem? What's her hang-up?
There's not a particular problem. She's
There's
just sort
a
of going through it. It's
brother incest thing.
It's a meditation on beauty and the doors that beauty opens in unfair and unjustifiable ways. And
also making out with your brother.
yeah, and sort of the burden of being someone who is like objectively attractive and trying to figure out how to exist when you have this incredibly unfair leg up on everyone else. The thing that was most believable about it was the casting, which is that this is in fact a beautiful individual. Celeste Dalla Porta is the actress's name. Gary Oldman shows up in this as an American, and sort of the only person in the universe of the movie who is immune to her charms, or at least not necessarily immune to her, but doesn't bother making a pass at her.
Okay.
Well, he's gay.
That helps.
He's not gay. He's perhaps battling with his homosexuality or potential homosexuality. It wasn't very good. It was beautiful to look at. It was certainly well composed.
It's very weird.
And like Lori is saying, like there's a weird thing where her brother is really into her, and she doesn't do a great job of not being into him in return.
And then you have to watch those teenagers have sex.
Yeah, that was a super weird moment.
Where is this movie? Is this like a Spanish movie?
Max.
Italian.
Italian.
I think it's on Netflix.
No, it was on Max.
Yeah, I don't see it on I'm looking for it on Netflix, but I don't see it.
Oh, you're right. It's on Max.
I know.
It's an A24 movie. It had a good trailer, and the chick in it was smoking hot, and that was relevant to my interests, so we decided to watch it. But
there you go.
As Lori is saying,
no reason for it.
Definitely weird, and I hate when you say things like "there's no reason for it." I will say that it doesn't quite live up to its own idea of why it exists. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist, though. I don't think that it's a movie that I can recommend, but at the same time, it had its moments. It has its charms. There were some moments where I'm laughing out loud.
Yeah, there you go.
At the film. Not that it's necessarily a comedy, but it's audacious and absurd in ways that compelled a response from me. There's spoilers here. She goes to school and wants to become an anthropologist because that's something to do with herself. And sort of the only truly healthy relationship that she has with anyone throughout the film is this old professor of anthropology who mercifully at no point makes any untoward advances upon her.
Good man.
And there's a moment at the end where he is revealed to have a son who is an inhuman creature, basically. Like this, he's...
it's like a Guillermo del Toro.
Right. Like like if Brendan Fraser in The Whale were 3 times that size and also albino.
3 times the size of the whale?
Yeah, not real.
An absurd monster creature, rather than it's a moment of fantastical
surrealism,
reality, surrealism or something.
Okay.
In a movie which didn't have it the entire time.
Right. There's no
and
other.
Could have used it.
There's no other surrealism in the entire movie except for the moment where this guy opens a door that had previously been closed and introduces our main character to his son, who is revealed to be just this fucking literally whale-sized individual sitting there on the like a true grotesque, like a monstrous grotesque.
But nice
and dumb, like a childish,
just normal.
No, like a retard. I think it's fair to say.
I mean, he doesn't get out much. What do you?
Right, doesn't get out much. Only watches TV and is a dummy. But who our 2 anthropologists here say is beautiful, and I think it thinks it's trying to say something here about why this guy was so unlikely to or did not have it within his character to be a lecherous individual towards our main character here because of his son. I think it's trying to say something there. Whatever it's trying to say, I don't think it necessarily succeeds in it. And primarily because she's not much of a character. And it's a sort of common thing, I guess, that I complain about. But you can't just... it's not quite Manic Pixie Dream Girl issue, but it is along those lines.
No, she's very realistic hot girl.
She's just this...
very realistic.
absolutely beautiful human being.
It's when you're that pretty, you can't be smart. You haven't been given the chance.
Yeah, but the point is that she's well-read, and I think
she's
that
well-read. She's not interesting.
they're right. She's not at all interesting, and I'm not sure that the movie knows that she's not interesting.
No, I think they do. I think that she says, I'm going to go into academia because that's all I can do.
Maybe I'm missing some of the subtleties here, in part because of the language issue. But if there's a satirical element to this movie, it went over my head. But yeah, and the sexual stuff was certainly weird, with her sort of doing the Lannister thing with her brother.
Yeah, and then she had sex with the priest, which was cool.
With the priest?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a cardinal later in the film who she decides to bone, even though he's a bit of a grotesque himself. I mean, I'm all for smoking hot chicks, boning grotesques as a grotesque myself. But yeah, what else did we watch? Anything?
That was it.
I read a book today that I borrowed from the library that I did not know existed before today, despite it being by Stephen King. It's a almost nothing little novella called Blockade, Billy, published in 2010, which I read in about an hour or so. It's only 100 or so short pages, and it's a weird little story about a catcher who makes his debut as a rookie at the start of the 1957 Major League Baseball season, and goes on something of a tear before his secret is revealed and he is no longer permitted to play Major League Baseball any longer. It's a fine little story, cute little story to read for an hour. It's fine. It's funny to me, like, obviously as somebody who's failed to get off the ground in any meaningful way in terms of having anybody read things that I would write, I imagine it is very difficult for Stephen King to know whether or not the thing that he's done is any good anymore. Like, and it's a burden of being him and having the wild success that he's had. There's 0% chance that this book is on the shelf at the local library if it's not written by Stephen King. And I think J.K. Rowling tried to get around this by having that she write like murder mystery novels or something?
Yeah, she wrote stuff.
Like detective novels or something after Harry Potter.
Didn't Stephen King do that?
And she did it under a pseudonym. And King did it also back in the 80s as Richard Bachman. But it was quickly discovered that he was Richard Bachman. And the Bachman books are fucking great. So it's not really an issue there. Just a bit darker and a bit turned... The narrative viewpoint is consistently, I think, more cynical than your typical Stephen King book is. But this is this is just a monologue by a character who's sitting in an old folks' home who is ostensibly being interviewed by Stephen King. And it's a character that you've seen a million times in Stephen King stories. And it's a story that is... as close to like a campfire story that you can imagine. Like it's just a one-off. Imagine this character telling this story around a campfire, kind of like the boys in Stand By Me, which was adapted from the Stephen King book The Body. They sort of sit around the campfire telling stories to entertain one another. This is along those lines. But I imagine being Stephen King, it just must be fucking weird. Like, and he has to, and he's said before that he relies upon his wife as his first reader to tell him whether or not the thing that he's doing is any fucking good or not, which is good. It's good to have somebody like that who can tell you that, but also, like,
a woman?
Like, how are you as Stephen King? Like, because I'm such an inherently self-critical person. And I know, or at least I think I know, when a thing that I have done is up to the standard that I want it to be. And if you're Stephen King and you've sold 100 million books and you've made $1 billion fucking having your stories be adapted, like he's the prime American storyteller of the last 50 fucking years. Like, how do you have any perspective on your own work at this point? I can't even imagine. It's a problem I'm sure many people would be happy to have.
And I imagine some of them would not think it's a problem at all. They're like, I'm good. You know, the confidence is like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm getting all this positive feedback every time I release something. Like, don't doubt yourself.
Anyway, that's what I did. I took out a handful of other books, so hopefully I'll have more things to say about the culture here now that baseball season is done. It's nice to have a little bit extra time to watch a movie and read a book.
Oh, you could get a job.
And not be just utterly consumed by the athletic performance of 8 to 12-year-olds. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later. From?
I don't know, sleeping
playing a
poorly.
video game. Why don't you take some
how'd that go?
Advil? Do you want me to go get you some? I'll get you some right now.
No, thank you.
You're being a fucking annoying bummer because you won't take Advil.
All right, fine. I'll take some Advil. Jeez.
Jesus Christ.
I don't like taking stuff, you know.
That's what it's there for. Imagine you were growing up in the olden days like a caveman, no access to it.
I'm not dying here. I just have a sore neck.
Yeah, it starts with a sore neck.
Oh, and then I'm dead?
Yes, that's usually how it goes.
Caveman me probably wouldn't have had a fucking, you know, it's the mattress's fault or the pillow's fault or something.
That's true.
I would have been born hard, sleeping on the ground with perhaps a nice flat rock to lay my head upon.
Born hard or die trying to be hard. Also, what if it was, you know, those goofy remedies, you know, like ginger and like beet? Like, would you, like, if it's something like that, you would take, but not like some concoction?
No, I wouldn't take that bullshit.
No, not even like warm water and like honey or, you know, you don't
For
do
like
any
a
remedy.
sore throat?
Yeah.
It would be a respectable way to be if you didn't act like something was wrong with you.
I don't act like something.
You do.
I just have a sore neck, Lee. Oh.
But you are acting like you are ill.
I don't even know where that... Because it started with like a little muscle pull in the upper back. And then...
It's because he plays the video game too hard. He throws his arms around like Mike D.
It's a...
Oh, you're pulling a
look,
Mike D? Look at you.
We got the Metallica sound, like the 16 songs or whatever for Beat Saber, like, because they do like packs, you know, like you can
You have
get
to buy them. It's bullshit.
You buy a Linkin Park pack if you're a real fucking loser, but
You
they have
can.
the Metallica pack if you're cool like me. And so we bought the Metallica pack, and like, I'm sorry, but when you have the opportunity to fucking hit those notes like Metallica, you gotta get into it a little bit. And I don't think that that's how I hurt myself. I think I slept funny. But whatever.
I mean, you sleep all the time. This is the first time you're playing.
Yeah, and sometimes you end up with a sore neck because of it. Morbid fucking headline.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Missouri cereal plant worker dies after getting trapped inside industrial oven.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's gotta suck.
Oof,
Do
indeed.
they have those safety placards up? Like, do they have to reset the clock?
Yeah. That's what's sad about that.
I'm not saying that's what's sad about it, but it's just it's a rough way to go.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.